For more news with a Catholic perspective, visit EWTNnews.com. Take Two with Jerry and Debbie starts now.
This is going to be a good show today. I just know it. It's going to be very active because we're all going to have something to say about it. I can feel it. We're talking about cohabitation today, commonly known as living together. That's what we're talking about, but we're going to take it on with a Catholic lens, a Catholic perspective, and we're going to see if we can walk away a little bit changed, a little bit closer to God, maybe having to make some hard decisions, but they are good, healthy, spiritual decisions, Jerry. And so I thought I'd just dive right in, not even say hello to you, not even say hello to the show team, or even to our listeners, just to dive right in because this is a tough topic and we only have a short hour to tackle it.
That's right. Talking about, did you happen to live together with your husband or wife before you were married? If you want to share that experience, how it maybe has helped or maybe didn't help your marital relationship. We hear so many parents, Debbie, have sons or daughters who are living with their girlfriend, boyfriend, fiance, whatever. Sometimes they say it's for financial reasons. They want to build up enough money to buy a house or something. But, the church's teaching on this is not ambiguous, and yet we find in the real world a lot of people are doing this.
There's many reasons, financial reasons. People want to, they use the explanation that they want to get to know each other first before marriage. All sorts of things. There's like 5 or 6 reasons, and I'll be citing those as well. But I just, even if you just do a very quick search, just generally throw it out there on the internet, is fornication, cohabitation, a sin in the Catholic Church? Up pops up, very quickly it comes up. In 2012, Pope Benedict XVI claimed that premarital sex and cohabitation were gravely sinful. That means it breaks those saving graces, okay? It breaks the saving graces from God. Gravely sinful and damaging to the stability of society. The Catholic Church continues to teach that premarital sex is disordered and sinful and believes that sexual relations are only acceptable between a married couple. Now, that's just a quick general search. So I ask this to all those fine folks out there that are dating right now. Just do one of those preliminary searches. You don't even have to go into the catechism yet, and you'll see that this definitely stands outside of what God would want for all of us, out of God's will. You're out of alignment of God's will, and with that comes consequences. Right, Jerry?
Yeah, and so we want to hear from you if you have a son or a daughter who is in that situation right now. 833-288-EWTN or 833-288-3986. Debbie did the post on our show website, and the show, by the way, was suggested by a listener named Robin. And I want to read for you what Robin said, because this might help inspire you to call in and share your particular take on this. She says, I would love to hear about how people feel about living together before marriage. I'd like to know if couples who did live together before marriage are happy they did it or wish they hadn't. I'm personally against it, but my daughter did it, and my son is leaning toward doing it. He says it's to save money, but I still think it's a bad idea. So, and Debbie, this is another one of those shows where people are going, oh, yeah, I did that, but I don't want to call in because, I'm outing myself. No, this is a safe place to talk about whatever we've all been through. We've all made mistakes. We've all been down the path of sin or, disordered relationships or whatever, and found our way to God anyway. So don't worry about calling in. It's a safe place. No one's judging you. We're just trying to have a conversation and get a real good feel about this.
So the number to dial, please don't hesitate. We've got to move quickly if we're going to try to really learn something in a deep way on this with this conversation and discussion. You must dial this number. We want to hear your voice, 833-288-3986. And I believe Michael McCall is ready to pick up the phone and speak with you, put you on hold for a little bit. You'll get to listen live and jump right into the discussion. Jerry, I've had some experience, unfortunately, many years ago in the late 1980s with this exact topic. And I can tell you, looking back, hindsight is 20/20. You look back and you see that so many things, there were so many latent fears and insecurities and things that did not manifest until later in the marriage. And I believe it came from having the false start, the improper start. Let's face it, okay? Whenever we are about to do something that we know that God probably wouldn't smile upon, right? We think to ourselves, well, we can justify it, we can rationalize it, and then we can try to make it right. So we're thinking to ourselves, well, we're going to make it right. Someday we're going to get married, or we're going to get married in 6 months, or 9 months, or a year. And does that make it right? Because that's not how God works. God works in order, and we should do things in a proper sense and a proper order. And with that comes positive effects of what we lay the foundation with. Right? If we start with a kind of it's our decide. We decide what we want for our life. Okay. How do we expect God to really and truly bless that? Right, Jerry? I mean, help me out with this, because you see what I'm saying with this? Sometimes I think we fool ourselves thinking, well, God will always love me. And of course he always loves us, right? So we're thinking, well, he'll bless me because down the road I'll do better.
Yeah, I think where you're going with this, it's a matter of wanting to make sure we have all of the graces available to us, and especially the graces that come in the sacrament of marriage. And you have two people living together before the benefit of the sacrament. A lot of times, Debbie, they could say, well, this is working out just fine. We don't really need, it's just a piece of paper that we're adding to the relationship. They don't really understand that there's a whole lot more than just that piece of paper, that wedding marriage certificate. There's the graces of the sacrament. There's, subsequent children, God willing, and being a model and an example for them, that you waited for marriage and so forth. So I think this is a great topic. A lot of people have been down this road, so let us hear from you. No one's judging. This is just simply about having a Take Two with Jerry and Debbie conversation. If you've been listening to this program for any length of time, you know that we have conversations about these kinds of things, and you are the ones who make it what it is. So give us a call. 833-288-3986. Or just share a story about somebody else. We want to hear about that as well. You don't mention names, though. Okay, Jerry, you talked about, raising scandal. It brings scandal to the family and the society, and that is so true. Think about it. Maybe it did, quote unquote, work out for you. Okay, maybe everything looked fine and you ended up getting married and you looked, that wasn't so bad. Yeah, we lived together for a few years before we got married. We even had a child and then we got married, or maybe we didn't, and it didn't work out so bad. But then the children come and they grow into adulthood, right, Jerry? And they say, Mom and Dad, I'm moving in with my girlfriend. That's okay, right? Because you did it. You did it. Now what do you say? So you have to think 10 steps down the road, folks. This is what we're talking about today on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Please call us. We're talking about cohabitation today through a Catholic perspective. We want to learn and we want to grow. Help us out, will you?
Father John Riccardo.
The ultimate answer to the question of where I meet Jesus. Because obviously, in imperfect ways, I meet him almost anywhere. I meet him in creation, whether it's the majesty of a sunrise or a sunset. You sense and you see something of the person of God, his majesty, his power, his awe. I can have access to him in ways, in many places and fashions. The fullest place we meet Jesus, the place where you and I on earth most have access to the Father, where we accomplish God's will on earth, are those minutes on Sunday, which so many of us find tedious and somehow see as an obligation. So please God, by the power of his Holy Spirit, he will give us the grace to understand more profoundly what it is that really happens when you and I come to church.
The people you know and trust are on EWTN.
Beyond Damascus with Dan Demite and Aaron Richards is our show for young adults.
Everybody's talking about encounter. Everybody's talking about that mountaintop experience. What we fail to often talk about is what happens after, what happens beyond that Damascus moment.
Jesus Christ is calling all of us to be missionary disciples, disciples of Jesus who are on mission to bring the kingdom of God here and now on this earth.
Beyond Damascus with Dan Demite and Aaron Richards, Saturday at 8 Eastern on EWTN Radio.
Hey, make sure you tune in to Catholic Answers Live Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on EWTN Radio, the home for Catholic Answers Live, featuring some of the leading apologists and theologians in the church today. Catholic Answers Live, I know it, I love it. I hosted that show for the first 10 or so years, and you are going to learn a whole lot on most of these same EWTN stations from Catholic Answers Live.
Okay, we're talking about cohabitation today, and we want to hear from you. No judgment is going to be made. And believe me, we're not coming from a seat of judgment in any way, shape, or form. Like I shared very early on in the 1980s, I was right there. I know exactly what you go through to try to justify or rationalize living together before marriage. I get it. I completely do. And that is the reason why. Also, I was sharing with Jerry and Michael, our producer, that I used to teach classes for engaged couples. And that is what got me started in coaching, in life coaching. And that's why Jerry and I, we have standtalltoday.com. Please, I would highly suggest if you are if you have a family member who's dating, if somebody's thinking of getting married, if you're thinking of getting married, get some coaching, get a third party perspective on this, and to really just make sure everything is in place so you have that great start to the beautiful sacrament of marriage. Wouldn't you say, Jerry? I think it's just wonderful to get prepared. It's no different than playing like a major league sport or something. You must do it right. You can't just go out there and think you're going to, score a touchdown, without practicing, right? And do it right.
Yeah, well, you could ask any couple that have been married 50 years, hey, do you have it all figured out now? And they'd say no. So you certainly may not have it all figured out, as you're getting set to walk down the aisle. So yeah, again, if you feel like life coaching would benefit you, check out standtalltoday.com. We got a full team of coaches and a growing lineup. But we're going to go to your calls now. Debbie, if we may, did you have anything else, Debbie, you wanted to share before we go?
No, I'm just excited to get into the catechism and some other references that you can look up after the show, and please do so maybe with your entire family. I think it would be beneficial. Hey, we're on this lockdown, still on it, and it's a great time to catch up on some Catholic reading.
Okay, 833-288-3986. Margaret is in Lincoln, Nebraska, listening on the EWTN app. First time to ever call Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Hi, Margaret. Welcome.
Hello.
How are
Hi,
you?
Margaret.
Oh, I'm doing all right. I'm just, it's baby's nap time right now. But
Beautiful.
Yeah. So I wanted to just share from my experience. My husband and I moved in with each other about 7 or 8 months before we got married. And it's a decision that I do regret. And our son was also conceived out of wedlock. And so, I've been to confession about that. And there are times when I just kind of doubt a little bit. But I realize that God is still with us and he does forgive us. But mostly, I look at my son and I think about telling him when he's older about being conceived out of wedlock, and how even though his start might have been rough, God is still with us to make us a loving family, and that no matter what, God wanted him in this world, even if it started out in this weird way.
Margaret, I can hear it in your voice, and it's coming from your heart through your words, the regrets that you have of starting out that way. But you said something really wonderful. Now, I'm assuming that you're married, right? You're still married to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you went to confession. Okay, God forgave you. God forgave you, and you want to share with your son the start of everything. But here's what I really would want for you, if I may say this as a sister in Christ. Please take comfort in knowing that God forgave you. Please remind yourself on a day-to-day basis. Please do that for yourself, because there are so many great aspects that you can tap into. The fact that you and your husband were open to life and your son came into this world, okay, that is a wonderful thing. There's a lot of couples that are living together. They don't choose that. They choose the exact opposite. And so there's so many great aspects of how you were so open to life and how you continued on. What I would suggest, just for your own healing, okay, is to, like you said, you're going to share with your son. I would share with everybody you meet about some of the things that you regret, so that you can help others, because people are looking for that sound advice, that life experience that can help them, so that they don't have 10 years down the road some regrets. That's what I do, Margaret. Okay, I shared early on in the 80s, I lived with my husband before we got married. It was wrong. It was completely wrong. And I actually believe that was part of what caused my marriage to fail. Okay, but now I went for years and got out there with engaged couples and other people to share what I wished would have been different and could have been better. I would just suggest that. I want you to be healed of this and know that it can be used in a productive way to help others. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. I do hope that I can use this to encourage people, especially we have big pro-life movements around here. And I do think that's something that my son, he is unique in that way, because like you said, not everyone will choose life in that situation. And for us, it was also a momentary thought that maybe we don't want to go this direction, but we knew that would be even more wrong, and just wrong on top of wrong. So we decided to make that choice and to keep him, and that was definitely a good choice in our situation.
Well, it sure was. And you have been given so many great gifts, Margaret. One, your husband. One, this beautiful son that you have. I remember St. Therese of Lisieux said, we can pray to God that God will make right anything that we've made wrong. And I appreciate what Debbie said. I'm reminded of Psalm 103, verses 12. You might want to read this. As far as the east is from the west, so far as he removed our transgressions from us. Well, how far is the east from the west? Well, they go on for infinity. That's how far away our sins are. The most important thing you can do, in my mind, give your son a loving, nurturing home, impart the faith to him, and raise up this strong, godly family. And then you will be an example, like Debbie said, for anyone else who might be able to turn to you and ask for your experience and your guidance on this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much.
Oh, no, thank you. Jerry, I just wanted to say to everybody that's dating right now or engaged, please, it takes about just a few minutes, actually. Read on the Catechism of the Catholic Church, paragraphs 2331 through 2398, and just read all about marriage and fornication and the offenses against marriage and everything, just so everybody understands. When you're walking in, just walk in with eyes wide open when you're walking into these decisions. I think it's really important, so that you don't have, down the road, just things that you wish you could have reset, like I do, and like Margaret has shared. We all have these regrets, but you know what? We can do our best now.
Okay, that line is open there. Thank you again, Margaret. Our prayers go with you. You are a great shining example to us here today. Thank you for allowing the Lord to use you in that way. 833-288-3986. We have Lois in Lubbock, Texas, listening on Sirius XM Channel 130, and another first-time caller to take two. Hi, Lois. Good to have you with us.
Hi there.
Hi, Lois.
Welcome.
How y'all doing?
Pretty well, Lois. What would you like to share?
Well, I'm the same way. I have pretty bad regrets. I graduated and I got together with my high school lover, and we lived for nearly 2-3 years before we got married. And now that we're married for almost 5 years, now we're starting to tend to question ourselves, and I'm wondering if we rushed things or if we were even and love.
Okay, so Lois, let me just ask you a question. Is there a child now in this 5-year marriage? Is there a child?
Oh, yes. When we got together, like within the year, we had 2 children before we got married. So
Okay.
I think that kind of pressured us more to, hey, we got to get married now. We got to get married.
Right. Okay, so Lois, let me just share this. I totally, I understand the situation you're in, the feelings that you and your wife are having now. And this is exactly the reason why Jerry and I share that, please, before it becomes a critical point where you one decides maybe to exit the marriage or do anything that could damage the marriage, please get some counseling. There's CatholicCounselors.com. There's other counselors. Get a Christian counselor for sure, or come to coaching. We do couples coaching all the time. And the reason why I say this, Lois, is because when you said we're questioning if we rushed into it, if we're even in love, that is the $64,000 question that everybody says, are we in love? What does that mean? You know what? I know people that have said that and have gone on to the 2nd and 3rd and 4th marriage, still questioning that. So what does that tell you? That tells you that we have to work on what is right in front of us. And the fact that you have children in this union, it makes it even more, you guys both should be doing this together and fighting hard for your family. Unless there is something you didn't share with us, like a major abuse or major something else that's happening, I think priests need to be brought in, counselors need to be brought in, coaches need to be brought in, friends and family. It has to be a joint effort to absolutely protect and save the family, because you can leave that. That's your choice. And so could your wife. But I got news for you, because I've been there, done that. The grass is not greener, and it's not better, and you still carry those same problems with you into the next relationship. So I love that you called. That says something about you, and I pray that you would take this to heart and fight hard, Lois, for your family. What do you think, Jerry?
Couldn't say it better, Debbie. Just a couple of things that I would add, Lois, is you've probably heard, the Bible passage, the 2 shall become one flesh. I mean, you and your wife are one flesh. You were united before God in matrimony. And so you have the responsibility that comes with marriage and raising a family. I would suggest, and I do this all the time, suggest it to people, Lois, if you're not doing this already, spend time in prayer. And if you can, get to a church in front of the tabernacle, the Blessed Sacrament. Do it. You and your wife can do it separately, individually, if you want. I would say preferable would be together, and just really, focus on Jesus. Get together, go before the Lord, each of you intent on looking at Him. Don't worry about the problems or any of these questions you're asking with your marriage right now. Those will fall away as Jesus becomes the most important thing in each of your lives. You're going to look at each other one day and go, "Wow, I am so in love with you." So Debbie, I know you have something to add.
But first we should ask, Lois, are you Catholic?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure, because we share these things. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I am, and so is my wife. But my wife, now that we started to question ourselves, she's starting to tend to fall away from our religion. I guess she feels like everybody's judging her or something, and she's tending to fall away from the church now.
Well, Lois, there's Marriage Encounter, there's Retrovi, there's CatholicCounselors.com, there's our coaching, StandTallToday.com. We produce, and not that anybody else doesn't, but I just know what we do because we track everything. We produce rapid results with couples. You're at a critical, pivotal point. I think you've got to really try to get her on board and do something together. Maybe if she feels judged by family, then okay, push them a little bit away right now until you guys get help as a couple and as a family. But I can assure you of something, Lois. If you just think 10 steps down the road, would you want this for your children? Would you want your children as adults to come to you someday and say, Dad, I rushed into marriage and now we have a couple kids. What do? I think I'm leaving. Would you want that for your children? I don't think so. I think any loving parent would say, I don't want that for my grandkids. I don't want that for my kids. And that's what you're faced with. And you could end up being a shining hero example for your family, Lois. There's no accident that you called. I feel it strongly. Please stay in contact with us. You can email us. Jerry and I will happily get on the phone with you and talk with you if you want to continue talking. And all you have to do is email us at take2@EWTN.com. If you could do that, we would... I just don't want to let you go until you feel comfortable with some plan of action.
All right, Lois, please do email us, take2@EWTN.com. We got to hit the pause button here in just a second. And then we have Jennifer and Danny and Bill and Tex and Laura. Take Two with Jerry and Debbie today on EWTN Radio. And we were talking about cohabitation, living together before marriage. It's not that uncommon. In fact, it's very common nowadays and has been really for several decades or generations. The church is very clear on what God desires here, but real life can sometimes get a little bit messy, and that's why we have these conversations, not to call you out, not to out yourself, not to be judged on this program, but we all want to learn and become a little bit closer to God at the end. So if you have something to say about this, 833-288-3986.
Father Larry Richards.
God is the God of life. God is the God of love. So when we conform our life to His life and His will, it's always life-giving. Always.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
In these uncertain times, Catholics depend on EWTN's National Catholic Register. The Register is so much more than a newspaper. It's your faith, your life, your source of information and spiritual resources. The Register is uplifting, redemptive journalism, interviews with Catholic leaders and newsmakers, liturgical coverage, health, financial, and political topics, and analysis of the key issues you care most about. EWTN's National Catholic Register covers every aspect of the Catholic faith that impacts your world. To get 6 free issues, order online at ncregister.com/radio or call 800-421-3230 and mention code RADIO. That's ncregister.com/radio or call 800-421-3230 and mention code RADIO. The National Catholic Register. Read faithfully.
He was a Jesuit, a cardinal, and a doctor of the Church.
Matthew Bunson and the Doctors of the Church.
St. Robert Bellarmine is honored for his immense contributions to theology, including helping to draft 2 important catechisms that defended Church teachings during the Protestant Revolt. Pope Clement VIII named Bellarmine a cardinal because, as the Pope put it, Bellarmine had not his equal for learning.
For more about the Doctors of the Church, visit doctorsofthechurch.com.
Hi, this is Johnette Williams. We bring you the truth of the Catholic faith on Women of Grace tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern here on EWTN Radio. Now, back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
We're talking about living together before marriage today. Is it a good thing? Well, let's talk about it. Let's see what the Catholic Church has to say about that, especially if you are Catholic. You definitely want to take note of that. If you're Christian, you want to definitely call in as well. We can talk about it because it's in the Bible, and it's very important that we understand that and apply that to our daily lives. So there's an open phone line for you to jump in on this and talk about it and today's the day. Today's a new day. This is the day the Lord has made. This is the day. Don't look in the rearview mirror. Let's go forward. 833-288-3986.
Back to your calls. Jennifer is in Louisiana. First-time caller listening on the EWTN app. Hi, Jennifer. Welcome to Take Two.
Hi, guys. How are y'all?
Pretty good. Better now that you called.
I just wanted to share. I was in a relationship for about a year and a half with my now current husband. And it probably wasn't the best relationship. And while we would break up, get back together, break up, get back together, and I wound up pregnant during one of the worst times of our relationship, and had my daughter. And the instant you have that baby, your mindset changes. And we were still broken up when I had her. And after I had her, when I came home, I decided, I said, okay, my duty is now to this baby. And if I want to raise her right, I'm going to have to start making the right decisions. So kind of gave an ultimatum of we can either make this work or we can go our separate ways. I'm not going to be one of these moms that are going to say, no, you can't have her, this and that. We'll do it peacefully. Well, we ended up staying together, getting back together. And at one point I was going to get my home, a separate home from my mom and dad. I was 20 at the time. And he thought, well, why don't we just move in together? And I said, no. I said, we're not going to do that. I've already made one wrong mistake. I'm not going to make a second, because what's going to happen is it's going to turn into a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and we'll never end up married. So I ended up not getting the rent house. We got married 2 years later, and we still have troubles in the relationship. I think mostly everyone does in that situation, from what I'm hearing from everyone else. It's a day-by-day work in progress. But I was always honest with my kids. I never hid from them that, of course, she was 2 at the time when we got married. I couldn't hide it from her. But my other 3 children that we had together, I was always honest, and I let them know, these are the problems that come up when you have sex before marriage and living together, and it messes with you mentally and emotionally and physically, and you get lost and you don't know who you are anymore. And if you're really in love with that person, or if you're staying with the person because you've had that child together and you feel that connection. My oldest has moved out of state with her boyfriend. She's dated for 7 years since high school. They do live together. They have 2 separate rooms. And they're supposed to be getting married in, November. So she says they stay in their separate rooms, and that was a promise she's always made to herself because of how I've explained things to her. When they were going to move in together, she asked me for my opinion, and I was honest with her. I told her, I said, I don't think it's a good idea, but you're 20-something years old, and you're an adult now, and your decisions are now your decisions. I've given you the tools to life and what those best decisions should be in your faith, and she felt strong enough to choose to do it this way. But I just wanted to share that little bit of information with y'all.
Well, Jennifer, you shared so much that it can help all of our thousands and thousands of listeners right now. So thank you so very much for sharing from your heart. May I ask, did you and your husband get married in the Catholic Church?
We did. We were both Catholic, and
okay.
I was grown up. I grew up in a very strong Catholic family, so it was, even when we were dating, I was fighting with myself over the decisions I was making.
Right,
so,
right.
And I think
so
that
was
stays with you.
Yeah, it totally stays with you. And so was I in the short time. Just so you know, I'm getting a lot of text messages too. People are saying, well, how come you did that in the 1980s? We did it. We knew we were getting married in a Catholic church, but we did it out of financial reasons. That was one of our excuses because we didn't have any money. And so we combined everything quickly before we got married. Big mistake, huge mistake, for the same reasons that you just said. All of these things start to manifest: emotional, physical, spiritual, all these things, insecurities, a constant arguing and bickering and tearing down, and resentment start to get built up, right? Right, Jennifer? All these things. You can't, and it happens because what I go back to this analogy of the garden hose, right? And when you step on a garden hose, what happens? The water doesn't flow freely. It's the same thing with God's graces. Think of God's graces as the source of the water, right? And you step on it, and each time you step on it, think if you took a hose and you kinked it 5 different places, would you ever get even a trickle of water coming out? Probably not. That's what happens. And it starts to build and snowball in a relationship. Same thing. And before you know it, it's person and person, person against another person, okay, without God being at the center. And that's a recipe for disaster. Right. And so Fulton Sheen had it correct. You have to make God at the center of your relationship from the very beginning. And so I just want to say, Jennifer, I thank you so much for sharing, because you're helping other souls right now. But one other thing I just want to say real quickly, this is why I was on the phone yesterday with one of our fellow coaches, Rose Sweet, and we were talking about it, wouldn't it be a great world? And we were saying that it would be a great world if every married couple right now, even if they had a good marriage, would go to some kind of counseling or coaching so that they can continue to work through a lot of these things that were set forth in motion long before today. Isn't that interesting? Right. Most people wait to get help when they're in a desperate need, and then sometimes it's too late, unfortunately. So Jennifer, back to you for final comments on that.
Well, I think it's true in everything that you say, and just like the first caller, Margaret, how she was struggling with basically forgiving herself for doing that. I went through that also. And I remember me and my husband had attended a retro vow retreat, and I had gone to confession there, and I'd spoke with one of the priests about that same instance. And, I told him, I'm like, this is like the 3rd or 4th time I'm confessing this. And he said, there's no need for that. He said, you were forgiven that first time. You were truly sorry. He said, you constantly having to repeat this every time you go to confession, you are not accepting God's forgiveness. And that is wrong on your part. And that is just Satan trying to get into your head to confuse you. Because he wants you to stay where you were before. And the caller before me, the same thing with you start to think, okay, well, was I really supposed to be with this person? Especially when you're in that bad time. And I struggle every day with my marriage, but I think, okay, this is the choices I've made. These are the decisions I've made throughout, and I need to work on them. And maybe this is my penance on earth, is to work through this and deal with this every day and try to make the best of it and start to look at myself and not just whatever he's doing or him look at what I'm doing. It's how can we work through this together to live together with the decision that we made. It's not all going to be sunshine and rainbows all the time. It's hard. It's difficult, no matter what decisions you made before you got married.
Yeah, Jennifer, if I can just add a couple quick comments. I love what Debbie said, and I love your heart as well. I would just say, this is just my own thought on this. I don't think this is your penance to carry through life. St. Therese, as I said earlier in the show, we can pray, God, please make right what I made wrong. And he will. God's outside of time and space. He can go back to those moments and he can make all of those right. And now what you have is an opportunity to really grow together as a family. Let's face it, even people who take all the right steps preparing for and entering into marriage have the same kinds of issues. It can be like our relationship with God. Sometimes I don't feel like going to prayer. I don't feel like going to Mass, but it has to be an act of the will. And as you do that, that strengthens the relationship, each of us with God and each of us with each other. So I just hope that you are able to shed this doubt about whether you can move on or not, because you can. Absolutely.
But Jerry just said something, Jennifer. You got to key in on it. Jerry, that was so Holy Spirit moved. I can't believe it. Well, I do believe it because it's the Holy Spirit. Way to go, Jerry. Jennifer, did you know that you and your husband right now, you guys could make a list and go back and say, okay, for all the times that we, didn't forgive each other, for all the times that we held on to different resentment, for all the times we've said, mean things to one another or had different thoughts about things, or for the times that we lived together before we got married, times that we did things outside of God's will. Do you know you and your husband together can pray and fast and make those things right? And Jerry's right. You can take that on. What a perfect time during this whole COVID mess. We're all at home more. What a great time to come together, and you absolutely intentionally plan out the prayer and fasting to repair all those things from the past. And that's not, the sins, you went to confession, those are forgiven, absolutely. But to repair things for the future. So that will help you, your marriage now, your children, your eventual grandchildren, and everything. I don't know if you ever thought about that, Jennifer, but I'll tell you what, Jerry, I just thought of it for me, and I'm going to actually apply it. What do you think, Jennifer?
Yeah, so I think it's something that I do need to do, and it's something I do think, but it's to take that step forward to do it and make it a conscious effort every day together, because that's something we've never done. We've never prayed together. I prayed with my kids when they were little at night. We'd go by the bed and we'd say our little prayers, and I'd bless them before they'd go to sleep. But as they get older, you get out of that. And I feel so wrong for that. And I feel wrong for, I know he would feel uncomfortable praying together because he's so private.
Right.
But I think it's something we do need to make an effort to do. Now that our children are older, our two youngest ones are in high school, and it's really something we need to start setting an example of.
Yeah. But Jennifer,
now, with everything going on.
Right, Jennifer, start slowly. And you don't even have to say to your husband, hey, honey, can we pray together? Just say, can I read you this little passage? And you read a passage. Remember, if you read about a saint or you read something that's spiritual, that is a form of prayer. You are connecting with God. So just start slowly and you watch how it builds and builds and builds. Sometimes people will say, well, I got to sit my spouse down and say, we're going to start praying at 6:00 tonight. Well, that doesn't work. Okay, it doesn't work. Just start slowly. Do it. Jennifer, this is the day. I feel it. This is your day, Jennifer. This is the beginning of a whole new chapter of your life. I feel it if you take it on.
I think so. Thank you. I'm glad I called.
Well, so are we, Jennifer. Our prayers go with you, and we thank you for gracing our program today very much on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie at 833-288-3986. We might be headed for a part 2 here, Debbie. We got still... every time a phone line is vacated, someone is jumping on there. So we'll make that call near the end of the program. But we're talking about living together before marriage. If you did that, maybe you have a son or a daughter who's doing that right now. Again, this is a no judgment zone. We just want to all learn about our faith and be closer to God as we come out of this. So we're going to go to Danny next in San Antonio, Texas, listening on Guadalupe Radio Network. Another first-time caller. Danny, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Actually, first-time caller, first-time listener. I stumbled across the radio station, which I consider a bit of a miracle. So I'll just be as brutally candid as all the other listeners, which I appreciate. So in my mid-20s, met my first sexual partner that I had, lived with him for 4 years. We were anchors on each other. Neither one of us was a bad person, but we just should never have made that leap. I did not have the courage to walk away because of sort of misplaced loyalty. Fortunately, he did, which set us both free from something, again, that we should never have entered into. And cut to a year later, I met my now husband, got pregnant right away out of wedlock, hit the lottery ended up pregnant with twins. And then we're quickly married. I was not Catholic. We did not get married in the Catholic Church. I was Protestant. And twins came early. We're in the NICU, survival mode. And then, 17 years down the road, we have 5 kids. And we're at a bit of a crossroads. And I really feel like we didn't – I can't say I've read anything with my husband because we have beautiful children. And he's a beautiful man. I'm a good wife and mother. We just sort of ripped each other off. I ripped myself off in my mid-20s by not allowing myself to grow into my adulthood. As my partner did, we both ripped ourselves off and each other off. And I feel like now my husband and I are struggling with who we are as adults and individuals. We never had that opportunity because we were thrust into marriage and parenthood and all that life brings with that. And so, this has been a wonderful listening to you has been really wonderful. We are seeking counseling through the Catholic Church now. I'm very hopeful, but we both acknowledge we can't continue down this path because we both deserve the best of each other, and we're not there.
Wow. Well, Danny, thank you for your call and your candid thoughts on where you've been with this situation. I love one of the first things you said. You said, I'm not a bad person. And your husband's not a bad person either. And sometimes we get this stigma that we apply to people who, remember, maybe this phrase has gone out of fashion decades ago, but it used to be living in sin. Oh, you're living in sin. Well, it is not according to God's plan. It could be sinful, of course. But, people are still good people at the core. And you've been married 17 years now. You got 5 children. You're at crossroads. I don't know if you have tried out any of the Catholic groups that they have out there. One is called Retrovi. We could give you information about that offline. What's the other one? A marriage encounter.
And they're in Catholic counseling right now.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
Forgot
Go
about
ahead.
that. So.
Yep.
Anyway, Deb, I'm sure you've got some wise thoughts to share.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's, but I'm glad Jerry mentioned again Retrovi and Marriage Encounter, because I'm sure your Catholic counselor is addressing that. Danny, here's what I would suggest: tell your counselor you want to bring out the best in both of you. You want to save the marriage and family. You want to have the best it can be at today and going forward. Work towards that. If you pick an end goal together and work towards it, you guys are strong. Look what you went through with your twins in the NICU. Look what you went through. You have an interior strength. We all do. We just have to tap into it. Okay. And I would say, Danny, there's a time and a place, not that anybody's condoning anything or saying it was okay, what was done in the past. Nobody's saying any of that for any of us, right? What we're saying is there's now and moving forward. And what are you going to do today? And what you're doing today with this counselor, I hope it's a really great, you love this counselor and it's a solid, good counselor. I pray that I know that's the great step, okay? And I pray that just keeps building for you, Danny. Please do whatever you can before anybody seeks the exit door. Because once you go through that exit door, it's so hard. It's so hard to pick up the pieces. I don't care what anybody says. If anybody's going to be truthful about it, it's really hard when you go through that exit door. What do you think, Danny? We're going to be with you in prayer. Please keep us posted. Our Take Two family, we are prayer warriors, Danny, and we are surrounding your family. What do you think?
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you for the prayers. I really do, and I think it's a bit of a miracle that I stumbled upon this show and got through and speak to everyone. And I want to thank the other callers, and I will be praying for them as well, and I appreciate your mission.
Well, thank you, Danny. Please take courage and be encouraged by your situation, right exactly where you are in your life. Debbie said it's about moving forward, and you have a tremendous opportunity to bring out the very best in each other. Keep up with that counseling, and again, our prayers go with you. Thank you, Danny. You can always email us, too, if you'd like further conversation about this at take2@EWTN.com.
And Jerry just said something important again. Boy, Jerry is just saying things he doesn't even realize how important they are, but they are so Holy Spirit maneuvered here, which is beautiful. Here's the other thing, folks. If your marriage is in trouble, your relationship is struggling, and you go to a priest and you find out, well, that didn't really work out so well. You go to a counselor, oh, well, that's not moving quick enough. Please keep going to more priests, more deacons, more counselors, more coaches, more. Please do that. Don't make the same mistake I made. Okay, I only went to 6 trusted professional people, and I should have gone to a 7th, and I should have gone to an 8th, and I should have gone to a 9th before I ever agreed to sign any papers for divorce. I should have done that, and I encourage others to do that as well. Keep fighting; it's so important. Jerry.
All right. Again, thank you, Danny, for your call. We have a social media comment from Anna watching the video stream on EWTN Catholic Radio's YouTube channel. Anna says, my hubby and I started very wrong. We lived together for 1 year prior to marriage, and neither of us had peace about it at all. Everything went wrong, as frequently happens when it's not God's will. But once we married, we stayed married, just celebrated 29 years. Do God's will, and when that happens, the blessings flow. Debbie, it's like that garden hose you were talking about. Mm-hmm. And real quickly, email take2@EWTN.com. Karen says, there's a lot of things that I did and allowed in my life, but one thing I did and feel happy about is the fact that I told my husband before we got married that if he wanted to live with me, I'd have to have Mrs. and his last name before we lived together. We did
Beautiful.
marry outside the church initially, which is the wrong way. She says, we are now sacramentally married, and this has made a big difference because this is the right way. That's from Karen.
Right. Beautiful. And if you're living together with somebody right now and you think that, you're going to get married, I suggest, move to a brother-sister relationship immediately and do the proper things, reset and start fresh, because it'll only benefit for you in the future. Let's hear what Tex has to say in Houston, Texas on Guadalupe Radio Network. Another first-time caller. Hi, Tex. Thanks for waiting and welcome.
Hi. I'm in beautiful North Galveston County, and thank you for letting me talk to you. My story is that I've always heard that I feel like living together, it's just something that it gives more of an advantage to a man again, just like having premarital sex. And if you've ever heard the saying, why buy the cow when the milk is free? I mean, why? I don't understand why you'd want to live with a man and, do cooking and all that without the bond of marriage. But some of my friends, they started living with a guy right out of high school, and that didn't work out, and so they moved in with their next boyfriend. And by the time they got married, they were already, that was the third man they had lived with. So, but that's not what I really wanted to talk to you about was having sex out of, a marital bond or, the matrimony. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
we're
we're here. Oh, yeah.
Okay, because my phone dies. Well, what happened to me is I wanted to have sex in high school because the movies and everything made it look like it was going to be so wonderful and you needed to try it. And every time I did, something happened. Like the first time I had sex, I got a really bad bladder infection. And then the second time, and this is the thing, I was in Austin, and this was 1981. Austin was still under 300,000 people. And the second time I had sex, I was 17 years old, and I caught chlamydia. And AIDS hadn't even come out yet. Well, I was going to UT, and their little hospital clinic, there was a really good doctor, and she knew what it was. And that summer when I came home to Houston, we have these great doctors and great gynecologists. I told her what I had, that I needed, more medicine, and she had never heard of it. But what happened was that infection has never left me. It's, brought problems to me all my life. And I was just blessed that I found my husband, because I thought I was going to be like, having sex with people. I'm going to be this great sex person, but my husband's the only person I've ever felt comfortable with.
Well, Tex, I'll tell you, we're going to come to the closing music here in just a minute. You're raising a complete another set of issues here right away, and that is, STDs and so forth. And we hope and pray that you're, glad to hear that you found your husband. As you said, you were. Debbie and I, we know we have a colleague in ministry by the name of Jason Everett, and he always talks about how young people growing up, you should pray for your future spouse. Somebody, maybe somebody you don't even know yet. But if you believe you're called to marriage, pray for your future spouse. Pray for their purity. Pray for their innocence. You wouldn't want someone having intimacy with your spouse after you're married. So it should matter to you that they don't before you're married. And that even includes maybe a girlfriend, boyfriend, a fiance, or something like that. Debbie, mistakes are made sometimes. And I think where I want to end this is that God is always right there. There's million other chances, 70 times 7. God is always waiting to lead us forward, and we don't have to get stuck in the past.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tex, so very much. And the others, we're sorry we're not going to get to you, but this was a great conversation. Jerry, you're so right. Get to confession. Make it right with God. Okay, start today making it right. Don't be thinking all about what went wrong in the past. Start today. And you'll see those graces will begin to flow again in your life, your relationship, your marriage. Tomorrow is about confession, and we're going to dive deeply into that wonderful sacrament of healing and cleansing. So we want to hear from you tomorrow on Take Two, right, Jerry?
We do. That's suggested by a listener named Kelly. Have you experienced the power of confession? I mean, a real experience of Jesus Christ forgiving you of your sins. That's tomorrow on Take Two. Thanks to the show team and affiliates. Until then, have a beautiful and blessed day.
Dr. Rigorindi, avoiding all known forms of psychobabble.